draft. So without further ado, Ascent versus Vanquish here in the round of 64 for the August Road to Blizzcon. Let's see what they're about to show us on Cursed Hollow.
A winner of this gets 300 Blizz bucks for their team, and Ascent have chosen to ban Zeratul as their first pick, first ban. Vanquish going to turn around and ban Zagara. And then looking at the picks we have so far, Ascent grabbing Jaina, Vanquish getting Kael'thas and Leoric. So all five now on the table in some capacity.
Wow, yeah, these guys are just going a mile a minute here at this point. But again, you know, Zeratul, Zagara, Jaina, Kael'thas, Leoric. That's basically the top five right now. And we see this combination of heroes so frequently in this tournament. So at least the teams definitely know how to draft. They know what's up with the meta, and there's nothing really surprising being thrown out into this one. Uther's now going to be joining Ascent as well as Johanna. So, you know, it's Cursed Hollow. They have Johanna, they have Jaina. It's not the best of maps for Nazmedan, but they have the groundwork set up with the double Js.
Yeah, they do. They could definitely go for that. Vanquish, though, is going to ban Tychus. Is that right?
They're banning Tychus, yeah. I see it.
Okay, so
not,
Tychus...
yeah, not something you see a lot of, huh?
I guess they're trying to limit the amount of damage that Ascent can pick up because Ascent did get a warrior and a support. So they only have one damage dealer in their 3 heroes so far. But that's generally not a damage dealer that's prioritized by anybody. Maybe they know Ascent. Maybe they play versus them occasionally. I'm not sure. But
I highly doubt it with 4 subs.
Yeah.
I highly doubt it. Either way, I mean, Ascent, they took their time trying to figure out exactly who they wanted to ban first, and it ended up being Zeratul. Now they have a big opportunity here to go for probably a tank ban, if I had to guess, if I had to choose. It's either they're going to go for a tank ban or it's going to be a support, because there's already an Uther on board for Ascent. If they think that Vanquish is going for a double tank, you might see a Malfurion ban here. If they also think that they're going for a double tank, you might actually see like a Mirrodin ban out. Depends on kind of what the rest of the Ascent lineup wants to be. It could be Nubrak. It could be a Tyrael. It kind of depends on how judgmenty they want to get. But as I say all that, it's neither.
Yeah, it's Abathur. So, I mean, teams do like Abathur plus Leoric. We saw it yesterday. And it is Cursed Hollow, so it's a big battleground. You can really get a good push going with Abathur, and it's hard to rotate up to try to deal with that. So Ascent are going to say you don't get any hats. The only hats allowed are on FourCourtJester's head.
Damn right.
And now Vanquish have 2 picks that they get to add to their composition. Nazeebo will be the first choice, so focusing on damage here. Will we get a second warrior? Will we see them pick up their support now, or will we get more damage?
All right, so with Zagara out, Nazeebo has actually kind of risen in the picks because Zagara is so frequently banned or first picks. And on Cursed Hollow, I mean, Nazeebo's not a bad laner. He does manage not to do very well up against, for example, some of the roaming comps out there. But we don't seem to have a lot of that in stock here for Ascent. So I think Nazeebo, especially in some of these pinched areas, the zombie wall is going to be great. Gargantuan is going to be great. Could actually be a very money pick right here. But Vanquish, they still got to put up a support. They got to figure out, is it going to be a second damage dealer? Will it be a second warrior? They're going to go a little bit safer and take the Rhaegar and use the last pick as a counter to whatever Ascent is about to finish off with.
Now, what I'm thinking could happen here is it's entirely possible that we see a Tyrande and then a melee warrior. We could even just see a melee warrior if Ascent likes to run them because they have Jaina, they have Uther. Before, I would see that, and I would say Kerrigan. But we've seen Kerrigan fall off a little bit with the change to Envenom. So it depends on what Ascent is comfortable running, if they like running those melee assassins. But already, that seems to me like that could be a big possibility. Another one could be Azmodan, like you mentioned, although this is a battleground that is more difficult to try to get those stacks up early on for the Taste for Blood because the lanes are so far apart. But it is still able to be done. I think we saw Tempo Storm do it yesterday, but it's Tempo Storm. It's Arthlon. He is like the best Anubrak player, or Abathur, or gosh, Azmodan player. Yay, there he is!
Not gonna say I called it, but I mean, when you see a Johanna and a Jaina, Uther doesn't really matter at this point. In fact, if you want to go even better, you take a Malfurion early on with Moonburn. But Asmodan, you've set yourself up very nicely for stacks. Now, Asmo himself probably is not going to go all the way from lane to lane, but he might duck down. If you put him in the mid, you can then move up and down and a little bit all around, but you don't very much go away from the mid. Either way, you just use the massive range of the orbs to kind of stack while still remaining as close to mid as possible so you get all the experience out of it. But that being said, I still don't see big roams to come out of here. I mean, it might be it might be Johanna going back and forth. Past that, I wouldn't imagine they're going to put a Jaina with her, but if they do, they need another solo laner because Asmodan would be in a lane, Uther would be in a lane, and this is where they're going to kind of throw everything up into X. Could be a tank, could be another range damage here. Vala's still on the board. I think Vala would do very well here.
Cassitar is a good solo laner, and he can help Asmodan with stacks.
Yep, could do that.
Oh.
It will be the double tank.
All right, so they're going to deny Muradin for Vanquish. And now if Vanquish want to go with another warrior, they're left to kind of the dregs a little bit. Leoric, Muradin, Asmodan, or Johanna already on the table. It would come down to Tyrael and Nubarak, Arthas possibly, potentially too. But it depends if that's what Vanquish wants to do or if they want to try to make that solo Leoric work. If that were the case, I think we could see something like a Tassadar trying to help that Rhaegar with supporting. Vala, like you mentioned, still on the table too.
So something that the Koreans taught me basically last night as I was watching the first ever OGN was that triple warrior frontline is a huge wall for your burst into the back. And both of these sides have burst into the back. Now, there's no triple warrior, but it is a very high possibility of Vanquish actually running a double to match the double of Ascent. Johanna mirrored it into the back. Asmodan could be very similar here for Vanquish. Double warrior and for a Kael'thas in the back. His burst is only going to go up and up and up. So you mentioned Arthas. I think Arthas would be a fantastic choice here because tight zone control, the Frozen Tempest sets up for Leoric, sets up for Entomb, sets up for Zombie Walls, sets up for Kael'thas Burst. And I think that would absolutely be fantastic. I can't really see another zone control warrior to add to them here. And if it's not going to be a zone control warrior, then it has to be like Vala. Vala or Falstad, because you're going to need the single target damage mentality to punch through the Johanna, to punch through the Muradin. And, well, I really wanted to see the Arthas, but it looks like it will be the Falstad.
You know, I thought maybe they would even go Tyrael because Righteousness will shield up the minions, and that's kind of a way you can stop Asmodan from being able to get stacks, because it's all about keeping Asmodan from getting those stacks too fast. You really want to try to deny them as much as you can. Looking at this, I'm not sure what the plan is for denying him, whether they're going to try to roam with some of their heroes, and then I don't know who they would roam with, but they could potentially do that, trying to stop Asmodan from roaming and maybe even take him down. But it's going to be interesting. That will be what it'll come down to. No potential for Mule on either side, so that's... Oh wait, Nazebo could get it, but you do give up Gidben, which is very good for him and adding to his damage. So I doubt we see a Mule on either side here, but it is a potential for Vanquish.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go in agreement right there. I highly doubt a Mule would kind of come into play, but Vanquish needs to do the damage at this point because one of the only ways, you mentioned shielding minions, which is fine, but unfortunately it doesn't do much for you in the team fights. And the reason I was going with more of an Arthas, more of a Falstad, is because Arthas by himself, again, in a lot of these team fights, he'll rack up some pretty significant hero damage by the end of the day. Falstad is going to be trying to do the same thing. Unfortunately, he just can't do the front line. So Vanquish need to pretty much use either Nazebo or Leoric to set up a fight, burst down someone, and then just go from there. The problem is, the longer that these fights go on, the double warrior nature of Ascent, especially if you can't kill them, and past 10, it's going to be really hard because Uther will have that Divine Shield ready to go. They're just going to get pummeled by Jaina, pummeled by Asmodan, and kited out by Muradin, kited out by Johanna because unstoppables and slows and stuns, and that's just going to set themselves up. That's going to set Ascent up very nicely for a lot of these team fights. So I really don't think Falstad was the best choice here. It's up to the teams to kind of prove me wrong with their gameplay, but on the surface of it, I would say Ascent has won this draft.
I would agree, because not only do they have double warrior with Johanna and Muradin, they have Asmodan, who has the highest health pool, I do believe, in the game. They have Uther, who for a support is pretty frontlining. He's pretty tanky. So really, they've got their work cut out for them in trying to take down someone. And it's really just comes down to Jaina, who is very, very protected. by all of these members of Ascent.
It's going to be a heck of a fight either way. Cursed Hollow is the first time we've seen this today, but we did see a heck of a lot of it yesterday. I don't believe we actually saw an Azmodan comp on Cursed. In fact, we seen Azmodan. We saw an Azmodan.
Dragonshire?
Yeah, I think it was more on Dragonshire than it was Cursed. I could be wrong. There was a lot of games yesterday. I think we did 6 sets of best of 3.
Did we?
We did 128, 64, 64, 32, 16. We did 5 sets of best of 3 yesterday. I mean, they were all 2-0, so 10 games.
Right.
Coming into this.
Caster math.
Yay, caster math. Oh, caster math. I love Jake, but sometimes the things that he gets trending make me shake my head sometimes.
Well, while we're waiting for these teams
to
get ready, we could take a look at the bracket and see how things are going. It looks like Complexity is still in the running, still in their best of 3, but about to go from round of 64 most likely into the 32.
Do we have anybody even close to 16?
Huh?
Do we have anybody even close to 16?
We do have, let's see, Turbo Cyborg Ninjas to face Twin Helix Evolution, the winner. That will go into the round of 16. Complexity and Dream Team, the winner of that, most likely Complexity, will be going up against the winner of this best of 3. So the winner of this could have a tough road ahead of them in that regard. Looks like that's the only round of 16 one we have so far is our Turbo Cyber Ninjas.
Now, we did actually get note that Complexity versus Dream Team. Dream Team drafted, what did they draft? Abathur, Gazlo, something?
Gazlo Lily, something?
Yeah, something really strange up against Complexity. So either they know that the Dream is dead, and it is now a dead team, or they have something very special up their sleeve for Complexity. But also, we didn't know what battleground they chose for that one. Could have been a Battlefield of Eternity for all we knew. But it sounded weird on the surface of it.
Yeah, it did indeed. It's always the Gazlo that throws a wrench in things, as he's a salvager. But
all right,
I think it would maybe be that Battlefield of Eternity.
Looks like the teams are ready to go, Miss Gilly. I'm really excited to get into Cursed Hollow. It's the first Cursed match of the day, and Ascent being led by Emperor, who has played out in the July. He was in the July finals. He didn't make it to the top 8. I think he might have made it to the top 16. He definitely didn't make it top 8. Now he's playing with a new team here with Ascent, and they're up against Vanquish. Unfortunately, nobody that I recognize there. But still, as we go into it, it is only game 1. Could go either way here.
It could, especially given the fact that Ascent is playing. It's a brand new team, just Emperor with 4 subs. But if they've been able to get some practice in, they've had a couple of weeks, then maybe they've gotten used to each other. They definitely, for both of us, won the draft phase, and that's a good part of the battle.
It definitely is, yeah. There's a lot of mind games that can go into that one. So on the left-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, it is Team Ascent. Sub's going to be here in attendance with Mr. Tobacco, Parakletos, Emperor, and Oramis? Yeah, let's go with Oramis on the dwarf.
Their opponents are Vanquish, as they will be on the red side with Cirque and Juke Step, Surveillance, Brofesional, and Ultima.
Oh, Brofesional. Is that a real word? I have to wonder. It sounds awesome.
It sounds really awesome.
Doesn't it? It just does. All right. Parakletos is a name I recognize. Emperor, definitely a name I recognize. I've faced against Ansirk in Hero League, so I know that he definitely has a few skills. I'm pretty sure actually Falstad is one of his favorites there as well. Memory's a little shaky, but I'm expecting big things out of him. The rest of them, unfortunately, I'm not entirely too sure other than Mr. Tobacco, but I can't remember what team I've seen him on.
He's played in the Heroes Type Challenger series.
Has he?
Before. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So, and I've run into him a couple of times on ladder too. So I'm sure you have, although you're higher than I am. But
okay.
He is, he's been around. He knows his stuff.
All right, so it does look like they are going to be setting up a little bit more of a roam. I was not expecting all 3 of them to kind of physically move lanes, but Parakletos, Emperor, and Subs not finding anything, so they're just going to go back mid. And now, the ping pong is not terrible because all you have to do is just wipe the lane and then you go to the next one. And, well, some pretty good stacks coming out of it from there. All they have to do now is just roam to another lane that's holding the creeps. and then go for those stacks. But it doesn't look like they're going to be interested in that. They see it's only Leoric here, so they're going to take themselves a very quick tower.
On the bottom, a big push for Vanquish, though, as well, and they are trying to take out this tower as fast as possible. They got zombies attacking it. It's out of ammo, and they are... But Mr. Tobacco and Uther not going to be able to do very much against them, just barely going to lose it with a jar of spiders.
A jar of spiders takes down the tower. What world do we live in, Neely? All right, so talents: Taste for Blood, Conjurer's Pursuit, Knight takes Pawn as expected. We do got Deep Chill. Really? Okay. Well, Deep Chill's increasing the slow amount. I'm a fan of more of the duration, but that's me. And Reverberation. Reverberation from Oramis, I suppose, is going to just be targeting out the Leoric and the Falstad. Nobody else really depends on auto attacks from this comp, but there it is.
Well, that'll be good versus the Falstad, who is going for the auto attack build, at least initially. He picked up Seasoned Marksman. Going to be maybe looking at Giant Killer later on at 13. And yes, and is going to continue that with the Vampiric Assault. So looking for some of that self-sustain, focusing mainly on auto attacks. And now Emperor is going to be going after this second tower here. Pericletos very low in health.
Yeah, Emperor has been trying to push this in very harshly, but, you know, we don't actually know where Kael'thas is. We don't know where Nazeebo is. Sitting here with this amount of health from Pericletos is very dangerous, and I think he knows it now as well. So he's going to head on back. Not the best of timings to be heading back because the tribute is spawning, but it's going to be spawning into the top, and that's where the Hammer Brothers are dueling at this point. Bottom is Mr. Tobacco and Ultima, double heals. The problem is that Subs is into the bottom there as well. So this feels like the tribute should go pretty much straight over to Vanquish, and it does.
Yeah, Emperor was also very low in health too, so I think they just decided to give that one up, try to get ahead in experience while they can, but they weren't really able to stall it for very long. So, not actually at all. So, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to kind of force their opponents out of lane for a long time. Yes. Surveillance and Profusional going for Bruiser pickup here. We've got Mr. Tobacco maybe trying to bait Ultimate into stepping out a little farther, but isn't going to be able to catch him out. Wasn't good enough bait for him.
It's up to Emperor and Pericletos now just kind of do their own stacking game. I mean, once you get some of the initial stacks out, you can actually remove somebody from the comp for the stacks because you're going to have enough base damage to make up for it. Typically with, like, for example, if you just throw out Leoric and Asmodan, it's not enough. If you throw out Jaina and Asmodan, it's not enough. Johanna, the same idea. But once you get enough base damage, you can actually cut out the third man in that comp, and that's what we're doing here. You can see Jaina's already bottom. She had to respond to that kind of push. Pericletos and Emperor are now going to be doing the stacking game on their own, and if you look at Pericletos, he's up to 92 bonus damage at the 4-minute mark. We saw Korean Asmo, I think, at about 150 at this point, this morning, but still, 92 at this point in the game, you're doing fine.
Yeah, he's doing a great job with those stacks. Both teams have picked up their level 7 talents, and a tribute is spawning. We have First Aid, so not going to be battle momentum for Falstad, looking for more self-sustain, trying to keep himself alive, especially because they do just have the one support. That was an amazing block with the zombie walls. Will it be long enough? Jukestep starting to channel this, and he will just barely be able to pick it up. So a second tribute going the way of Vanquish.
I gotta give that block was actually really good from Surveillance. It was perfectly placed. It blocked out 3 members here of Ascent to get into that tribute, and 2 tributes very quick into the pockets of Vanquish. This is not shaping up at all for Ascent, and now they don't even know that this is going on. There's a boss on the field, and nobody is showing. There have to, like, there's not even any pings out. Like, if you're discussing this in TeamSpeak or something, that's fine, but 0 pings, nobody seemingly reporting out any differences, but they do have a plan. Their plan is to push out the bottom. If they did know that top was going on, this is the best lane for them to be pushing because it's the longest lane for retaliation to come in here from Vanquish.
I feel like they had to know because all of the Merc camps were already picked up and there's only 1 person showing on the battleground. So if they did know, they did get 2 towers down, but they have to go after this tribute here. And 2 members are up on top. Falstad can fly in at any time, which would mean that it would be a 5v4. The Blizzard goes down. There's a lot of damage to Profusional and Surveillance, who are low, trying to get away, but they're slowed from the chill. Surveillance goes down. Profusional and Jukestep trying desperately to stop this, but the zoning from Emperor has been very good. From Mr. Tobacco too, so many stuns, so much control, and the first tribute for Ascent finally picked up.
Now, I thought this was actually a very brilliant setup from Vanquish. They had just gotten the boss. They can fly down with Ansarek. They can get a curse, and they can just capitalize on that, push out the bottom, maybe even go for the other boss. But that didn't happen. Instead, they got caught. Zub's huge amounts of damage coming out from the Jaina. Periclito's able to, add on with the burst that he's been stacking up over time. And we didn't see the fly come down. Like, by the time the fly was even in range, we had already kind of lost the fight. So Vanquish, I thought, had a very good setup into this, but it went basically to the dogs, because now the top lane push, it got stopped out by Ormus. They didn't even get a fort out of it. Their boss is down. They can't even threaten that pressure during a curse now. And the tribute didn't even go into their pocket. It went to Ascent.
Uh-oh, Sub's got caught here in the Entomb. Does get Divine Shielded, though. Will she be able to escape? Periclitos threw out a huge globe, but did drop down Jukestep and ultimate. Here comes Ansarek with the fly in. We're still waiting on Murden, who is not here. All Shall Burn removes Falstad from the fight. Jukestep gonna have to disengage. Can Murden pick this up in time? No, Surveillance is here to be able to stop this channel. But the rest of the members are gonna have to heal up and get over there. They're fairly low on mana and health, but they absolutely cannot let Vanquish just grab this one because it will equal a curse.
Man, that Drain Hope on Johanna is so good, hitting the high hit point pool of Johanna. She had a heck of a job healing up Jukestep, but as he said, we don't really have that map positioning. If they wanted to fight this, Ansarek would have had to actually fly in, and it just didn't happen. The ultimates are enough, and this will put us all the way to tribute number 5 before we do see that curse coming into it. Let's take a quick look at some of these talents as we have a little bit of time between now and the next tribute, but Uther at level 7, no cleanse here, Wave of Light. And, that's actually not a terrible way to go. How many stuns do we actually have on the side of Vanquish? Veritably none.
Yeah, there's a possibility maybe from Falstad's hammering, but I don't think that's like until 16. There's gravity lapse, but really there's not much of anything to have to deal with there, so a good pick up there.
Yep, Divine Shield coming out. We do see the typical stacking Asmo build as the top fort is going to drop, and finally a bit of an experience lead now being accrued this time by Ascent. But Sledgehammer, Piercing Bolt coming out there for the Mirrodin as well, and it is the Snowstorm at level 4 for Jaina.
Love the Snowstorm. We also have Earth Shield for Rhaegar, so also no cleanse on the side of
that
Vanquish.
feels like steak.
Yeah, that feels weird. There's lots of stuns. Of course, Condemn, Hammer of Justice, there's slows from Jaina. There is the Entomb onto Oramus, but he's going to be able to Dwarf Toss right out of there, no problem. The Phoenix is zoning. Emperor is far up in front trying to Condemn in, and Phoenix did do quite a bit of damage to some of these members. Hinders and Blast connects, but does not take anyone down quite yet either. Periclitos has come in, though, and with the Globe of Annihilation, pushing the rest of the members of Vanquish back, but not before they lose Jaina. So it is a 5v4. Both teams with very low members of health. Globe once again taking Surveillance down to very low health. If they're still on the fight. Condemn pulling members in. The All Shall Burn nearly taking Jukestep out. Will he be able to escape? There is the stun, and he will go down. Refusional now going to be blinded. They're trying so desperately to take him out. Condemn will help ensure that takedown too.
So remember back in the draft, it said, we have to kind of throw down the Entomb and grab a kill from Vanquish. It's not happening. It's not happening. Like, the Entomb went down. We didn't even have to use the shield to heal out anybody. Ascent still had the shield in their pockets by the end of it, and the burst combo wasn't there. Ascent comes in, rolling with Jaina, rolling with Asmodan. Between the two of them, the burst was enough to really start wearing down Vanquish, and now, as you see, they lose out the team fight. The invulnerabilities are absolutely real. They lose out the curse. This is now going to be probably about 2 levels between these teams if they can get these forts, and man, oh man, these Entombs just are not getting value.
Or is he meaning to catch like Suits 2 and missing, or is he really trying to go after Mirrodin? Because Mirrodin can Dwarf Toss right out of that.
Well, we've seen it repeatedly, so I'm really hoping it's the former, not the later. Jukestep is going to be the victim there of that ancestral healing, so he's going to be okay, but he's not really getting anything done with it. I think he might be trying to set up for a good Q, but by the end of it all, he's just not swinging. Ansarek is throwing out as many hammers as he can, but even in the last fight, he didn't really seem to throw out as much damage as he could, and this time it doesn't seem to be any different either. It might be the retreat from Ascent because they lost out their Mirrodin, but still, remember, it's a curse. They got the fort by the end of it, and it's almost the 2-level lead I was looking at, but we are going to hit 14 fairly soon.
Yeah, that was a fantastic distraction too. Yes, they lost Mirrodin, but they also were able to take out Kael'thas. They stalled out for so long that all 3 forts now are down. The bound minion on top. as soon as the curse hit, was able to take care of that fort too. So all 3 forts down on the side of Vanquish. Ascent still has all 3 of theirs, but they're going to have to be very vigilant about the next tribute, because at any point, if Vanquish can pick one up now, they're going to be able to get a curse and start turning the tides, trying to catch back up in those structures and the experience.
Level 15 to 14. Johanna not realizing that she hasn't actually picked up a level 13 talent at this point. That's a little bit of a slip, but we do actually have both teams converging on bosses. There's that giant killer you're looking for, Miss Gilly, but level 7 is also the first aid. Ansarak realizing between the Jaina, between the Azmodan, and the limited mana pools there of Rhaegar, he's going to need as much healing as possible. That's why you see the Vampiric. That's why you see that first aid there as well. But the Flamethrower, a nice proper Kael'thas talent to come in. And, you know, we did actually start off Spirit Walker's Grace, now into Healing Surge. You're probably going to see the tidal waves coming out of that one as well. I highly approve of the Rhaegar, except that level 7. It's not cleansed for some reason. But other than that, everything else looks pretty kosher.
We have kosher there. We do finally have Johanna picking her talents. Going to get Burning Rage at 13. I love that pickup, as well as the Blessed Hammer at 16. Those two together, if you can afford to take those, are so nice. Johanna always right in the middle of a fight, means that she's going to be doing a whole bunch of damage to whomever she is standing around. And now we're having a big push here on bottom from Ascent, who are pushing with their golem. Are going to be able to take out. Soup gets hit by the Entomb into a flame strike, but there is no ignite there just yet. Now it does mean that they were not defending versus the boss of Vanquish, and that actually might get more done than the boss of Ascent, because nobody was here to defend it.
Yeah, it absolutely will, and there's no mule in sight. That being said, it's not quite the keep, but damage is damage at this point. Nothing to repair either way. Now remember, there was also a tribute into this bottom. It did spawn out, so as soon as the push was done, Ascent backed up, put another tribute into their coffers, and we are still denying the curse attempt here from Vanquish, but it's not over yet for Vanquish. 13 minutes in, level 16. They have equaled out for the talent tier, and it's going to be a long road to 20 at this point. We do have hammer time. Gilly, you're a wizard, but again, I can't actually say that is probably going to be something that gets a lot of value by the end of this.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the stun there, but it's still, I still don't think that it was enough to
now there's an
warrant a
Entomb.
potential pickup on that. Oh, we have an Entomb. Oh, it's on Emperor. And the Iron Skin goes down, but it will not be enough. Johanna will fall.
Yeah, now that was a money Entomb right there. Good stuff coming up from Vanquish. And this is good timing, because we should have actually a tribute now spawning in the next few moments. And if they can do a 5v4 pressure, it's going to be hard, you know, with Azmodan throwing orbs, with Jaina. She doesn't have the reach at 13. She does have the improved ice block, but she does have the radius on Snowstorm. So it's going to be a little harder to take this in a fast, fast fashion, but you should be able to take it nonetheless.
Azmodan has now 234 stacks. Surveillance starting to channel this. Can they possibly, it looks like the globe will just barely be able to stall out. It's going to be a tough road to try to stall out as long as possible. Holy Radiance comes in, once again stopping it. Johanna up in 5 seconds. They just need to be able to continue doing it. A Stormbolt this time stuns it, and there is another globe. Surveillance once again trying to channel it. What do they have left? Phoenix is going to go down to zone. Once again, Holy Radiance comes out to stop it. Now Ultima Surveillance, both trying to get it, and a globe will stop them once again. Is Johanna here? Have they done it? It looks like they're going to have to try to stall it out one more time. 2 people are doing it. And Jaina falls to the Hinterland Blast, and the pickup is here first on top of Vanquish.
That Entomb juke step. Stop throwing it on the dwarf. I beg thee. Excellent duel from Ansarak into the top. It's very reminiscent of when I watch iDream actually on Falstad. He goes for the mages. He has not only enough health return, but he has enough damage out there in the stun. I mean, sure, it's going to be a great stun because Jaina's not going to expect it. But I mean, with that overdrive, I think he just could have straight up killed her much quicker. But overall, they didn't get it in fast order, just like I was expecting. They did finally get it. Jaina gets dueled out. She's down for the defense. That's a big chunk of damage missing here from Ascent, and this push is looking deadly. The top, unfortunately, is not getting any value, but the bottom fort is done. Mid fort is done, and that's a lot of experience. In fact, now we've taken experience lead from Vanquish.
We're going to steal these bruisers to keep the pressure going. We should start moving back up. The keep is exposed and has taken some damage, but Jaina is back. Remember, they have Kael'thas, who's now at 16. They've got excellent poke potential. It looks like they are not feeling confident about pushing in there. They're going to step back. The curse is now over, and they're going to go pick up some of these merc camps that have started to spawn. Bosses, the top one will be up in 26 seconds, the bottom one up in 30. We should start seeing some fights around those pretty soon.
All right, so some mercenaries now going back and forth. In terms of who got the better curse, I'm not entirely too sure. Both curses just kind of yielded enough pressure from the sides, and now with bosses coming up, looks like both teams are going to polarize to the different edges of the map. So this will take us a little bit of time to talk about Leoric. So Leoric did go reanimation. Good stuff. That's pretty much the typical right there. Fealty unto death. We see that somewhat. I don't want to say that's actually the big kosher one. It kind of depends on how a lot of people are playing. As the teams are going to be trying to move up here for the contest, which will not work. Ascent Renewal, crushing hope into Unyielding Despair.
Unyielding Despair is, I think, a little bit of a different one, but now we've got a team fight. Orm is trying to catch out that juke step on the Leoric. The zombie wall going to be able to stop Mr. Tobacco and Emperor for a bit, but that is a big place to have a hinterland blast. Unfortunately, it doesn't really give anything, and in fact, 3 heroes fall on the side of Vanquish. Ascent is on the charge. They are moving straight in toward this fort. They already have 2 keeps exposed on the side of their opponents, but they're choosing to go after this keep in the mid, taking down the gate and towers, working on this one. All shell burn going down, going to melt that keep so fast they could be looking at in-game.
Absolutely. I mean, Leorics are going to come back up now because of those reanimation stacks and Ascent Renewal for 20% of that death timer gone. But with 2 down, as you said, I mean, this could actually be it right here. They're not going to push core, but they are going to set themselves up very nicely with double keeps. Now, there is also a tribute spawning. They might just be able to sit on their laurels and look for a cursed timing with double catapult lanes. And unfortunately, Vanquish is just not really going to be able to get a lot done. Mr. Tobacco, he has a shield ready to go. Does he actually have to use it? It is very likely if he wants to live out of this, he's going to. Because there's the Entomb as well. Juke Step is going every other for value. He is not going to be throwing down the shield. He does have Redemption, but he needs a team here to back him up. And all we got is Mirrodin. And I think this might just be a double death for Uther at this point.
Well, there is a Divine Shield this time, so he's going to have to use it. He was trying not to have to. Now the rest of the team is here. They're funneled in kind of a tough area, and there's the zombie wall to zone, which means Ormus, Emperor, and Mr. Tobacco by themselves for a little bit. Ancestral Heal goes down on surveillance. Ormus has to dwarf toss out. And for now, Soup's coming around the side, is going to get a huge blizzard down with the water elemental, takes out Nazebo, is going to ice block to keep herself alive, to take a whole bunch of damage from that hinterland blast, and Juke's going to be able to pick her up. So now 1 for 1 here in this team fight.
Well, 2 for 1 if you count Uther, I suppose. Sure. But I mean, we tried to capitalize on the fact that there was no Divine Shield, there was no Redemption. If they could have gotten Mr. Tobacco, it could have been a big swing right there for Vanquish. Because remember, they have 2 lanes now to defend against catapults. That will eventually start pushing and pushing and pushing against those cores. So the absolute worst is when you're missing 3 keeps, because then you have 3 lanes pushing in repeatedly, and it kind of becomes a little bit of a timing game. It's like, all right, push out, go for something, get it, or not. I mean, it's a 50-50. And then you have to go just return to defense. It's just ebb and flow, ebb and flow, ebb and flow. We have a little bit more freedom here because the lanes are already pushed out as far as they are, and there's no 3-lane destruction coming down on top of Vanquish, but they're moving out without their Nazebo. They need to make this happen on top of Mr. Tobacco. It has to be the big priority target here.
It's the poke versus poke. Ignited Flame Strike versus the Globe of Annihilation, but Perfidos has to go back. He's low on mana, cannot be throwing all of those out. Jaina has returned. Nazebo is too. This game is incredibly close. Yes, 2 keeps are down on the side of Vanquish, but Ascent took a bunch of core damage. It's down to 76% because they left that boss alone from top for so long in order to take down those keeps. So it's still anyone's game. It's late enough that a team fight will most likely, depending on how comfortable they feel and how many they take down, yield the end of game for either team.
Leoric is really trying to be the most self-sustaining skeleton king I've ever seen. I mean, his bones got to be made of adamantite at this point. I mean, Spectral Leech coming into it at the end game, but Emperor setting themselves up for a beautiful orb combo. Kael'thas eliminated. Rhaegar's not even going to get that Ancestral off, and now the Entomb, I don't think did anybody favors on the back of that as well. Remember how I said you could sit on your lows and look for a curse? This could be the endgame situation. 76% for the Ascent core, but I don't think there's anything that can pressure them out of this. They're going to go for the win right here, and I think that it is within their grasp.
That condemn into Globe of Annihilation was huge. Great job seeing that and going for it. And now they are on court. There's a curse, but they say they don't care about that final keep. They want the core. Juke Step going to get stunned into a takedown there. It will be back up soon-ish, but that's not going to be enough. The core is falling, and Ascent, with all of their subs and everything, will be able to pick up the first win.
Blue team victory, very convincing there as well. A little bit shaky, kind of after their first curse. I mean, there was that Uther play. I was very curious exactly what he was going to do. Will he just eat the double death to try to save the cooldown? Because that doesn't really work a lot of the time. But by the end of it, it was enough. The team showed up. They were able to protect Mr. Tobacco until the end. And Ascent putting a point on the board with the Asmodan play. Wasn't exactly the most impressive stacking game I've ever seen. 21-36, and I don't even think he reached 300, but it was enough. And you saw at the end there just the destruction that was rained down upon Kael'thas. Oh, that was something, man.
Yeah, the fact that although they had right around 300 at the end of the game, they were still able to throw that out and then really capitalized on it with Jaina. She took that snowstorm. She had the increased radius on her blizzard that helped deal so much area damage in one shot between a globe and the blizzard. The rest of the combo to follow too, even the cone of cold into a numbing blast, making sure they were going to stay there and be very low in health. And the two pickups, the double pickup right there was just enough for them to be able to end the game.
So the bans for game number 1 was Ascent banned out Zeratul, Vanquish banned out Zagara. I would highly suspect to see Vanquish ban out Jaina in this next series, because the flank at the end game there was basically game over. Jaina did phenomenal. Like, yeah, she got dueled out once by Ansirk, by the Falstead, who, to his credit, did absolutely wonderfully in that regard, because it led his team into a curse. The thing is, like, Jaina was so much more effective, because not only did she do it on that burst, we saw body blocks with Ice Block, we saw flanks with Root, and as soon as you hit level 20 and you have that Root, you become something of an initiation machine, and that Root sets you up for Johanna, sets you up for Mirrodin, sets you up for Asmodan, or vice versa. Anything to set up for the Asmodan Globes that are hitting for 1100 by endgame. Worked out great.
Yeah, looking at the numbers too, Vanquish had the higher damage dealing number when it comes to hero damage, but I think what really showed is that the zoning from Johanna and Mirrodin was far superior. Ascent was much better off at being able to focus down those high damage dealing the heroes like Kael'thas and Nazebo and Falstad. They really went after Kael'thas. It was much easier for them to be able to get to them and be able to hit them than it was for the opposite, than to be able to try to get to Jaina and Asmodan even, who is still, like I mentioned before, has a very high health pool. So great focus fire, great zoning, and being able to keep the heroes alive.
Yep. So, hey, if you don't lose your hit points, you don't die, ladies and gentlemen. It's a magical, magical thing. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, Ascent and Vanquish will continue, because it is a best of 3 here in the round of 64. Money on the line. Well, Blizzbucks on the line, but hey, it will buy you stuff, therefore it is money. And whoever does win out, either we're going to a game 3 or Ascent will move on to a 2-0. And we'll talk about that when it happens. So stay tuned. Road to Blizzcon will continue in just a bit.